Okay, Tucson, let's start finding our seats. The live stream is just about to go live. So thank you for joining us here tonight, and welcome everybody. And as you find your seats, it is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce our Ward 4 Council member, Nikki Lee, who will be giving you all a warm welcome to tonight's event. And joining her at the stage, oh no, just joining her, but not at the stage. Okay. Also our mayor is here. But with that, please welcome Councilmember Nikki Lee.
Thank you, Tim. I just want to say a couple words. I want to thank every single one of you for your time tonight. I'm sure there's some really exciting things you could be doing right now, and you're choosing to spend your time here with community to learn more about this project and ask questions and get some questions answered. And that is exactly what the intention of tonight is. So I want to thank you all for being here. I felt that it was critical that we have a public conversation prior to my colleagues and I discussing this at the council table in August. Thank you. And the mayor has requested an additional community meeting in the Midtown area for next week, and those details are forthcoming. But we both felt it's really important to engage with the community, share as much information as possible, but most importantly, hear from you all and understand what questions you have and what your thoughts are. So I really want to appreciate each of you. And speaking of mayor and council, Mayor Romero is here. Councilmember Perez in Ward 5 is on his way over right now. I think he realized we're pretty far out on the edge of town here in Ward 4, so he is en route. So I want to thank him for being here. And Supervisor Allen, I saw you over here. Oh, you're over here. Hi, sorry. So we have some electeds here to engage tonight. And we also have Jan Lesher, our county administrator, here. And so I just want to thank everyone who made time to come out. And tonight we're going to hear from the Project Blue team. We have some folks here from Project Blue. We have Tucson Water here to talk about the project and answer questions, and also some folks from TEP. So we really tried to cover the bases with the key groups and folks who might be able to share information and hear your questions. So again, thank you all for coming out. I hope this is informational for you. I hope it's helpful, and I hope that we all can listen and learn along the way. So with that, thank you again, and I want to turn it back over to Tim, and I'm going to sit down and listen.
Thank you, Councilwoman Lee. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm Tim Tomyer. I'm the city manager for the city of Tucson, and also a lifelong recovering water geek. So when we get into those parts of the discussion, I might not be able to help myself, but I appreciate you all being here tonight. I would also like to just do a couple housekeeping items. For those of you that need restrooms for the public, out the door you came in and across the campus is called the 400 building. There are restrooms available in there, but there are also restrooms as you go out that door and then to the left. So you can find your restrooms there and just rejoin us as you can. Couple of ground rules as well. We are going to try our best to get to questions rather quickly because we know you have a lot of questions. And so when we get to that point, we have a couple of microphone stands that will allow you to come up and pose your questions, and I'll try to triage that and call on you as we go. We also have Charlene and Anna from the mayor's staff. They're going to be ones helping collect the cards so that you can start registering some of your questions on those cards. They'll be collecting them, and they'll be bringing them up to me because many of you might have the same question. So we're going to kind of group those together and try to pose those questions as we go. So that the team can answer it, including the Project Blue team and the city. Also with us tonight is from Pima County Department of Environmental Quality, so that we know there's some questions that we might have Scott come up and answer with us during the Q&A. My ask of you is a couple things. One is we do have about a 20-minute presentation, and we know that's it's a little bit longer than we normally like to do because we don't want to be talking at you. We'd rather be talking with you. But we do want to get some basic facts out so that we can ground the conversation. My ask is that you hold your questions during the discussion. I know some of you have specific positions already staked out on this, and you might have signs with you. That's cool. That's fine. My ask is to try not to interrupt with the live stream because there's probably a lot of folks at home trying to see it. And I just might point out if we're getting too disruptive with that. so that we can have a good discussion. So if I were to ask you to model behavior, are Jeff and Joe in the audience here? Okay, there they are. Can you raise your hands, both of you? Okay. As I'm walking in, Jeff and Joe get out of their vehicle, and one of them is kind of excited about the project, and the other one's a little bit skeptical about the project. But they came together to have this conversation. And so be like Jeff and Joe. Let's get the questions, let's get the answers. We won't get to 100% tonight. I understand that. We're going to have more facts coming out as we go. So let's be like Jeff and Joe. And I just met them tonight, so thank you for being here. So without further ado, we'd like to go into the presentation. Here with me tonight from the Project Blue team, we have Carrie Sylvan, a consultant to the team and a local Tucsonan, Logan Craig, Christina Kasler, who's their water expert, who works with our water experts, and we geek out like nobody's business. Arnaud Dusser is here. And then from PDEQ is Scott, I'm going to say DiBiase, and I know I shouldn't say DiBiase. Say the other word. DeBias. I for some reason, I keep blocking on that. So Scott DeBias from PDEQ. Thank you, Scott. So without further ado, I introduce Carrie Sylvan.
Thanks, everyone. I am going to attempt to do this in 20 minutes. I have a lot of information to give. My name's Carrie Sylvan. I'm with Lazarus and Sylvan. I'm representing Project Blue. I have been in Tucson for over 30 years and have grown up in the state of Arizona. My role tonight is to introduce Project Blue and to talk to you a little bit about the project, water, energy, as well as some of the employment numbers. I'm going to try and answer some of the questions that we've received ahead of time as part of the presentation, but it would be a lot longer than 20 minutes if I was going to try and answer all the questions. So I will do my best. To anyone on the team, both Project Blue, I'm stewarding some information on energy and water as well in the presentation. So if I misspeak, because I have a lot in my head right now, I would ask that you go ahead and correct me in real time because I want to make sure that the correct information is getting out there. So I would ask for that. And again, as Tim indicated, we're going to do questions from the audience at the end. I want to thank Councilmember Lee, who was sitting right there, and the mayor for creating this space for us to do this, for staff for everything that you've done to pull this together, and our Tucson Police Department for being here as well. With that, Project Blue. Beal Infrastructure develops data centers and really works with communities across the country to build infrastructure that helps with economic development. What really makes Beal unique in the data center world is their being true to these kinds of commitments, developing sustainably, investing in the community, and with an overall commitment to health and safety, which really matches a lot of the values that we have in Southern Arizona. A lot of you know what data centers are. They really have become the critical infrastructure to support our daily activities. We all have cell phones. We all have computers at home. Sometimes there's multiple devices in every household. I have 3 children, so you can imagine the number of devices that I have in my house. We make our doctor's appointments online. We check medical records online. We do our banking online. Some of us take online schooling. For those of us who are still working full-time, we do streaming meetings. All of that requires data centers and these kinds of facilities. Even the QR codes that we asked you to use to sign in involve those kinds of systems. They're all cloud-based activities. Data centers do provide benefits to a community: well-paying jobs, significant tax revenue, minimum traffic impacts, improvements to infrastructure, and really increases that local connectivity to all the things I just mentioned: healthcare, education, financial institutions, and they want to be near those population centers. So why Tucson? We've heard that a lot. Why would you do this in the Sonoran Desert? There are a number of reasons. First of all, We are a region of over 1 million people. And there really, I think we said there are 34 areas in the United States that have that kind of a population base. There's a lot of data centers in those areas. We have a low risk of natural disaster. We're connected to major markets, both through fiber and freight. And it really, as I said before, creates data centers near the users that need them. We have a strong workforce in southern Arizona, a large pool of skilled local trade labor capable of delivering on complex infrastructure projects. As we heard at the Board of Supervisors meeting, many of those people live here with their families. Some of them are here today. And they have to leave right now these communities in order to find work. We're hoping to help solve that by bringing those jobs back here locally. There's also a diverse pipeline of local talent equipped to meet the broad range, and it is a broad range of skills needed to operate a data center. It also provides us the ability to really partner with the university, community college, and other schools to strengthen the workforce as well in the future. Most of you know Tucson Water has been an industry leader in water stewardship for over 125 years. That aligns with Beal's sustainability principles, as I discussed below. They are your local experts, and they're here to also answer questions at the end of the presentation and have a lot of the facts to help with that. Beal has been able to work with Tucson Water on a plan that increases the use of reclaimed water by building significant infrastructure, as well as establish a framework going forward for industry partnership on water positivity. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that in a little bit. The power is here. TEP has been planning for reliability and growth, including economic development, and TEP has a mandate to support local economic development. Project Blue adds another industry ratepayer into the system with consistent power usage to increase reliability of the system. The infrastructure is there. Renewable energy sources are available for the start of this project, and I'll give you a little more detail on that in a minute, aligning, again, with Beal Infrastructure's principles. This really is an opportunity for a large industry leader to work with TEP on future phases that accelerate that energy conversion and transition. I'm a land use lawyer, so we all love maps. This is a map. In orange over here, that's us. That should be the big X, we are here. That's the we are here on the map. The primary project, which is the I-10 and Houghton, is right here. This is a blow-up of the primary project that I'll talk about in just a minute. And as you can see, we're just north of the fairgrounds, which is right here. The purple line that I'm not going to point out because my hand is shaking, because y'all are making me a little bit nervous, which means that I won't be able to trace it. So that purple line is the new recharge line that we're going to be talking about in a minute, and gives you some perspective of its length from east to west for that 18 miles across the city limits. This area down kind of in the south here, south of the I-10, is really designated by the city, the county, and state land for industrial growth into the future. It's also population growth, but it's predominantly industrial and employment growth. This project is really responsibly sited, and what I mean by that is we've learned a lot from other data center markets. Some of you have forwarded us the stories from other markets where data centers have chosen to pop up right adjacent to a residential neighborhood. So what we've learned is that we don't do that. This is an area that is surrounded by planned industrial growth, as I said before. Our nearest resident is across the freeway to the north, across another large swath of land over a mile away from the project. So we are in an area that is not, I'm not saying there aren't people who live nearby and who drive by it, but we aren't directly next door to anybody's bedroom, which is a lot of what you hear about in other jurisdictions. We're near a major, recently improved intersection at I-10 and Houghton. It's near existing utility infrastructure That's part of what we were trying to show by blowing this up. These are the utility lines, so the power infrastructure is there. This particular site, there's no impacts to sensitive habitat. There's no findings of cultural resources. And as I mentioned before, we're directly adjacent to the fairgrounds. The Los Reales Sustainability Campus is in this area. You can see it on the map. The airport, and then the big green circle, yes, it's green, is an opportunity for the new aquifer recharge station, as well as a recreation area that I'll talk about in just a minute. So the next 3 slides, I'm going to be talking about water. I will tell you right now, I am not the water expert, which is why I invited Scott and Tim to let me know if I misspeak on this. But we have been working really, really closely with Tucson Water, and I'm going to attempt to steward these 3 slides. Project Blue will be net positive. We've heard a lot of questions about what exactly net positive means. We are not creating new water. Everyone who has suggested that is correct. You don't create new water. But there is water that we cannot tap into in our region that is available to us with investments and with some different strategies. And I have a whole slide on water positivity that I'm going to talk about in a minute. This idea sets a completely new standard for industrial uses coming into our region, again, around sustainability. It supports the city's longstanding water conservation and water stewardship, and it will replenish 100% of the consumptive use, both potable and the reclaimed water, by investing in programs that truly create and tap into new water. I already talked a little bit about the infrastructure investment. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. That's the 18-mile reclaimed water line, providing an opportunity at no cost to city taxpayers for extension of that line, and brings that reclaimed water line opportunity into the southeast area where it doesn't currently exist. Anyone growing within the southeast area has to use potable water at the moment. And it will build the aquifer recharge and recreation area. Project Blue will not reduce water flow in the river or reduce the amount of water we lose from the region. I want to talk about operational efficiency.
Now, all right. Thank you. Thank you. You can shame me and you can call me dripping in shame on my way out. That's fine. I know that you like to do that. But there's if you will give me one moment, I will answer the question about the river. I am the person who lives here, so there's plenty of water here for me. So, thank you. If you don't trust me, that's fine. I am here to provide facts, and I am asking you to quiet down for one moment. I'm asking you to quiet down for one moment. There are several hundred people here that want to ask questions and have them answered. So, thank you. Project Blue would take water from the reclaimed water system, which is fed by the Agua Nueva wastewater. I'm getting to the point as you asked me to. So please let me answer your question. The Agua Nueva wastewater treatment plant and the Tucson Airport Remediation Project both would deliver water to the reclaimed system. They do it today. They will do it in the future. The flows in the Santa Cruz River that come from Agua Nueva are protected by a conservation effluent pool project that the county and the city collaborate on, and by other projects that the city has started and continued. And the flow north of the Tres Rios wastewater treatment plant is not affected because that plant is not connected to the reclaimed water system. So, fair enough. Fair enough. I'm asking you to please allow us the time to give facts. So there is no connection between the water that would go to Project Blue and the water that flows in the river. That is a fact. So now, thank you for sharing your opinion. I would like to now turn it back to Carrie to continue her presentation. And if we continue to have disruptions, this meeting might be shorter than it needs to be otherwise. So please show respect for everybody else that's here. Please show respect for the people that are here. Thank you. Thank you.
So I want to move on and talk a little bit about the operational efficiency of the project as well. So it's designed to optimize energy and water efficiency. The cooling technology is such that water is not needed during the winter months, during shoulder months, and most nighttime hours. The technology enables, without water, for operation to continue at internal temperatures ranging in the 80s to 90s, not in the 50s to 60s, which again is some of the misinformation that's out there. So the water does not have to be used all year long. At full build-out, water usage is just 6% of the reclaimed water within the Tucson Water portfolio, and it's only 1% of Tucson Water's entire portfolio. Unlike other users of reclaimed water, like golf courses, or a lot of our potable water use, there will be contractual commitments to water positivity drop for drop. I am glad you asked. This slide is going to be difficult, we know, for people to read. I'm going to step through it. It will also be available on the city's website if it isn't already, so that you can take a look at it. This is the concept of water positivity. And again, we've heard a lot of skepticism and questions and asking for the details, and this is a lot of the details. Beal has committed to replenishing, as I said, drop for drop, and working with Tucson Water on the types of projects identified as water positive. This sets a new standard for industry when it comes into our region for truly being water stewards, because we know water is really important to us. Example projects in the community that are listed on here, a lot of them have come from the community-driven One Water 2100 plan, which was adopted by the city of Tucson. And the city is working to establish more firm policies on this water positivity. So there's 5 categories. There's conservation, efficiency, augmentation, restoration, and nature-based solutions. So conservation are investments that reduce current water use, and it keeps water in the system. So it's things like fixture replacement, low-income homeowner, plumbing repair, and turf reduction. Another idea of what under the water positivity is efficiency, which is an investment in identifying, fixing the leakage in the system. There are now much more sophisticated leak detection technology, automated metering, pipeline replacements, and reservoir lining that can all be part of getting rid of that leakage and keeping it in the system. Supply augmentation is acquisition and delivery of new water to Tucson. That can be handled through groundwater credit purchases, CAP leases, and other mechanisms. Supply restoration is investments to treat currently unusable groundwater for potable reclaimed water. Examples would be wellhead treatment for PFAS to recover wells that are lost to contamination, and brackish groundwater desalinizations. And the last is a nature-based category, which is an investment in watershed protection and or rainwater capture, so you can think about green stormwater harvesting and rainwater harvesting. The water positivity commitment is both for the short-term potable use of the water as well as the reclaimed water use, and it's required for both. While Council is working on this concept for new industrial users, it will be implemented first on this project in a drop-for-drop manner. The reclaimed water line I've talked about. I want to highlight a couple of things in addition to that water positivity. This is over a $100 million investment in public infrastructure for the extension of that reclaimed water line. It will take time to build, and it's going to be constructed simultaneously with the first phase, the initial phase of the primary project. So the project will be on potable water for 2 years. No future set, no. Okay. We got it. I got it. No future projects.
All right. So since we're on this slide and we've heard your reaction to some of the things that have been stated about water, that's fine. I'd like to pivot to a couple of slides, or I'm sorry, a couple of questions that we can address on this slide, because not everybody has the same opinion, and some people are seeking information that we can provide here. So, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to go to, and some people put their names on, some people didn't. That's fine. I just think this is a good question to answer here. So it's been stated that the developer will build the 18-mile pipeline at no cost to the city or ratepayers. This question follows on that. Who will pay for the maintenance of that pipeline? That's a really good question, because even if you get a free pipeline, does that mean the ratepayers have to pay for it? Project Blue not only builds the pipeline, they pay for the water they use. And when we set rates for water, it's based on cost of service, and that includes maintenance, replacement, operations. So Project Blue not only would pay for the pipeline, they would pay for the maintenance and operation of that pipeline through the water rates that they pay for the reclaimed water they would be using. And then water positivity, we'll keep coming back to that, because I know there's some distrust about that. That's fine. We are sharing the facts about how it works. What I want to also say is Project Blue also pays all the costs to make it a water positive project, whether that's to invest in the conservation, to acquire the new water supplies, or to pay Tucson Water to do the programs that replace the water. So there is no cost of the pipeline to the ratepayer or the maintenance of the pipeline to the ratepayer, and Project Blue pays for the water that comes through the pipeline and to replace the water that comes through the pipeline.
So a couple things I want to point out on this slide. Yeah.
In the middle of that, I heard, what's the rate? So they will pay the same like commercial and industrial rates as other users do, plus they pay that water positivity rate on top of it. And currently in the draft, yes, that is what I'm answering right now. And I would get to the answers much faster if you would allow us to do this. Right now in the draft development agreement is $750 per acre foot. How did we come up with $750 an acre foot, you might ask? Recently, the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority of Arizona, which is not Tucson, which is not Project Blue, it's the state board, recently administered $220 million worth of water conservation grants statewide. These are grants that save water. These all have a $1 per acre foot cost associated with them. And about half of those projects are under $750 per acre foot. So that's where we're starting, is something that has about 100 projects statewide going on right now that generate water at or below that price. With that, back to Carrie.
Okay, let me talk about the purple pipe for just a minute. We worked with Tucson Water in setting the alignment for that purple pipe, which allows existing users as well as future users to be able to tap into the reclaimed water line. One example is the Los Reales Sustainability Campus, which is currently along that line. It currently uses a significant amount of potable water, 306 acre feet per year, for dust control and compaction of the landfill. So that's going to be an opportunity to be able to convert from potable to reclaimed water. That pipe is being oversized, as Tim just pointed out, paid for entirely, designed and paid for by Beal, so that existing and future users in the area can use reclaimed instead of potable. The aquifer recharge, which is the green, is similar to SHARP for those of you who maybe have been out there and have maybe live out there and interact with it. It also doubles as a very awesome recreation area, and it's an aquifer recharge. The way this works is that the water goes into the aquifer recharge, and it's only pumped when needed. And as I mentioned before, there's many times during the year when it's cool enough that we don't need to actually pump the water. This will be about a 30-acre recreation area, and again, it's in that kind of green circle. We will be working with the Ward 4 office and some of the planners who worked on the SHARP facility to design the recreation area as well, and that will also be paid for by Beal. Really quickly, how the water works. The reclaimed water, the other thing I want to point out is there's a potential future extension, which you can see in the yellow dotted line going up, that would make this a loop system, and that is something that Tucson Water has been desiring to do for quite some time, with a private developer taking 18 miles of it and paying for it to make that portion of it happen. So what happens is the water comes from the Mission Manor, which is the red dot, comes down the purple pipe into the aquifer recharge. The water, thank you. The water is then stored in the aquifer, and then again, it's only pumped out when needed. When it comes into the data center, it will be cleaned. It's reclaimed water. It will be cleaned enough to use for cooling. It's recycled about 6 times, and then it's cleaned on the way out through it with a discharge permit through Pima County Wastewater. And it will go back into the reclaimed system. It will be measured on the way in and measured on the way out, and that consumption difference is what's going to be the water positivity requirement drop for drop that was the slide before this. No pollutants or toxic chemicals, I'm going to do that again. No pollutants or toxic chemicals are added to the water during any of that process. This slide is just to give you a context, because when we talk about the last 2 things, which are energy and the economics, I'm going to be talking about the initial phase of the primary project. When I talk about that, what I'm talking about is about a little less than half. So it's the area in the green. That's what we're talking about when I say the initial phase for both the energy and the initial phase for the economic analysis. So let's talk energy for a minute. Project Blue is committed to prioritizing clean energy generation sources. Project Blue will be a customer of TEP, subject to the energy mix TEP has and that TEP will be creating in the future, with alignment of goals toward renewable energy generation. Per TEP, Project Blue will support and not impact TEP's net zero emissions by 2050 goal. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Per TEP, Project Blue will not impact TEP's retirement of all coal assets by 2032. Now I'm going to talk to you about the initial phase, which remember was that map. The power required for the initial phase is being powered by both excess capacity in the current energy mix and 900 megawatts of renewable resources that were identified in TEP's 2 most recent all-resource RFPs, which are all 100% renewable. The initial phase also includes Project Blue-funded infrastructure improvements that some will be oversized for the system, and Project Blue is working with TEP and the city on the feasibility of installing solar panels over the parking spaces on this project. They can't be put on the roof because of some equipment that needs to be on the roof for these systems. For future phases, Project Blue will support TEP's 2050 net zero emissions plan, and the generation for future phases will be sourced through new RFPs as is required by state law. We've talked a lot about protecting customers, and I want to give that a little bit of meat on the bone. The energy supply agreement with TEP is designed to ensure no risk or financial burdens are passed on to other customers with this project. So Blue will be paying TEP's full retail rate for industrial scale customers, which more than covers service costs. They're going to pay the upfront cost of the infrastructure developed for its use, and also there will also be a termination fee and a letter of credit posted that more than cover the costs that TEP will incur on Project Blue's behalf. The last thing I want to touch on this slide is there's been a lot of questions about emissions from data centers. The primary source for this data center, unlike others, and we know that there are other stories and other data centers that handle things differently, the only thing is our backup generators. These backup generators are there for emergencies only. They are not, unlike some other data centers, they are not under TEP control or used for TEP to serve back to the grid. They are only backup generators for the site. Wrong way. This is the largest economic development project in the city ever. It aligns with Tucson's It aligns. Okay, stop. It aligns with Tucson's economic strategic plan as well as climate goals for the city. This is.
Please hold on one second. We had people that want to ask their questions and have them answered. So on this particular topic, while you take a drink of water, they're asking for a breakdown of all projected jobs and salaries. And I don't know that we have that level of detail, but we do have some of the long-term jobs, and then we have a ton of construction jobs. Could you just go a little bit deeper on that for this person?
So when we talk about the jobs, there's 180 full-time permanent jobs. What we want to reiterate is that those 180 jobs are only for the initial phase. Those are well-paying jobs at $64,000 per year on average. There's a wide range of jobs that are included with that. That includes. That is not true. There's a wide range of jobs that go from.
Keep going. Just keep going.
Okay. And they require various different levels of skill sets, and some of which do not require advanced degrees. That is a positive. There are also 3,000 construction jobs, which are created again. Just for this initial phase of the project. These construction jobs are not. It's dismissive to call them temporary and non-permanent. When this is fully built out, this project could be up to 10 years long of construction, which means 10
I'm going to highlight just a couple more things on this slide, and then we have one more slide, and then we'll be taking the questions and hopefully a little more respect when we start in on the questions. $3.6 billion of capital investment. Again, that's for the initial phase. Underneath there is the multiplier. That is about less than a quarter of the full project. So the multiplier is down below. That's $1.2 billion in construction and $2.4 billion in equipment. That does not include the capital investment for the 18-mile reclaimed water line or the aquifer recharge, which is also the recreation area. And as I said, it doesn't include the future phases. The tax revenue generated for just that initial phase is $250 million to the public sector, which is city, county, and state. What we've broken out up there over that same 10 years is the 97 of the $250 million that would come to the city of Tucson. In addition, that primary project is currently owned. It's in public ownership. So when it goes into private ownership, it will go on the tax rolls. Right now, it is not on the tax rolls. So when you pull all of that together, the other entity that benefits significantly is our local school districts with that increase in tax revenue. Again, this is only the initial phase. The multiplier is below. The construction jobs Arno just talked about. This is for the initial phase over 3 years. For the full build-out, we're expecting 7 to 10 years of construction jobs. So at least for my children who are now heading into the workforce, the idea of a 10-year job is not a temporary job for them as they're looking at jobs. The initial phase full-time employees on site by the user is 180. Again, that's for, you multiply that by 4 to pull it out, and Arno already talked about what kinds of jobs those are. Last slide, I want to talk for a minute about community investment and sustainability. The focus here is to provide job opportunities for our local folks, partnering with public schools, community colleges, and universities for workforce training, STEM education, apprenticeship and internships, skills certifications, hiring to keep local talent, and educator workshops, in addition to all of the construction. We've made some site commitments as well that we've highlighted before, but I'll highlight again. Tree planting on site meet and exceed the requirements, and we want to work with community-wide initiatives. The public green space, the investment, again, designed and paid for a 30-acre recreation area, similar to Sharp, that's also the aquifer recharge, that is not paid for by the City of Tucson. Sharp was a City of Tucson project. We're complying with the native plant preservation ordinances to enhance flood control. We're complying with the city's rainwater harvesting and the county first flush. We will include for employees electric vehicle charging stations. I talked about installing solar panels above the parking areas where feasible, and on-site preservation of open space and complying with local ordinances related to flood control. This project, in a lot of ways, as I tried to say before, this does not pit jobs versus the environment. This really is a data center that is focused on sustainability and with the hopes of bringing forward a new way of doing business, not only in southern Arizona for industrial users, but for data centers, frankly, across the country. With that, I think I'm handing it to Mike Chakowski to do a couple. Where's Mike? Yeah.
While Mike comes up, there's a number of questions about enforceability and accountability, and I'm kind of hearing that from this side. That's fine. We'll get to some of those questions in a moment. I'm making little piles. And so enforceability and accountability we'll address here in just a moment. But first, let's hear out Mr. Chakowski.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you again for coming out to enjoy this conversation. I'm here to just do a really brief bureaucratic description of what's going on. My name is Mike Chakowski. I'm a senior project manager for the City of Tucson for economic development and annexation. So I've worked on 40 annexations over the last 10 years and 50 plus development agreements to bring new jobs to Tucson. I just want to let you know about what the process is going through so everybody understands what the process is. This is an annexation. It is currently an unincorporated Pima County, owned by Pima County. They are the sole owner of the property. We have given notice to them that we will be initiating that annexation. The public hearing will be held August 19th, 2025. At that meeting is the request of mayor and council to initiate a one-year process to collect the necessary signatures and go through the steps to bring it back to mayor and council at a subsequent meeting for consideration for final adoption. If mayor and council provides that direction, then we have to provide the translation zoning, which was adopted by Pima County at the June 17th Board of Supervisors meeting to allow this use. State law provides that the translation is to be the use that is no more dense or intense that is what currently in place. Basically give developers rights as they have them. Again, governed by state law, this is the translation of the zoning, that we will not be doing anything more dense or intense. That's what's in place. What you have now is what will be allowed when they come into the city of Tucson. No more rights, no less rights. The Selk, again, development area was approved by Pima County. This will be the specific plan adopted as the city of Tucson planned area development. It will allow uses for industrial developments, including data centers. That's all we have. We're now going to open it up to questions and answers. I do want to make sure that everybody, if you didn't have an opportunity to sign in, if you'd like to scan on this, you can get information to Project Blue on the City of Tucson website. You can sign up for our newsletters and get more information. We will be updating that as we get questions coming in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, and thanks for everybody bearing with us as we presented information and handled a few questions along the way. We do have quite a few questions, and we're triaging them now to get them into piles where we can answer as many as we can tonight. All questions on cards will also be answered. We have a Project Blue website. We will update the fact sheets and questions and answers from this and all meetings leading up to ultimately items going before mayor and council, which doesn't happen until there's a study session on August 6th, and then there's the first actual consideration is at the end of August. So there's a lot of time ahead for your voices to be heard and your questions to be answered. With that, I'm going to take a couple of the ones that I think I can handle pretty quickly, and then we're going to dive into this accountability piece a little bit. So one of the questions is, and I could have given it to Scott, but I'm being kind to Scott here. And it's a fair, all of these questions are fair. So Scott, who I've not introduced yet, and so Scott, come on up. They want to hear from you, not me. Scott is the Deputy Director of Tucson Water. He's an engineer. He's a man about town. So you have the one question.
Hi there.
Hello.
I have a question for Tucson Water. So if there's some big change, new Colorado River agreement, extreme drought continues, multi-year, would Tucson Water have the sole discretion to restrict delivery? And how would you balance data center versus residential?
So, fantastic question. Thank you for asking. One of the things that we've worked very hard on over the last several years is our One Water plan. And in that, we've evaluated a number of different scenarios, from a reduction in CAP water supply to additional use of other supplies that we are beginning to move forward with. So with the background and the resource portfolio that we have, which is continuing to diversify over time, we have the supplies in hand to continue to meet our customers' needs and the needs of this development here as we see fit today. I can't hear.
You don't think there'd be an emergency where you'd ever have to make a choice?
We do not foresee an emergency, no. have not started. This is the first one. Okay, go ahead. All right, I have a couple other questions here. I'm going to read them and then answer them. The first question, does the city currently use potable water for dust control at the Los Reales landfill? And could the city tap into reusable water and stop delivering potable water for dust control? That is something that you heard Carrie discuss earlier. Yes, with the alignment of this pipeline, that is certainly an option where we can start to deliver renewable supplies, reclaimed water to the Los Reales landfill in lieu of using potable water or groundwater supplies, which are currently being used out there. This pipeline also does open up that opportunity for other users. That was just one example of where we can make the change. All right, one more question. Will Tucson fix leaks and employ water conservation techniques in the absence of Project Blue? And how can Beal's projected water savings when the city would do many of these already? So, fantastic question. We are doing that. We do as much as we can today with the supplies we have, the resources we have, and the funding we have. We have a lot of programs already in place. We have leak detection, condition assessment programs that are active and actively working, but there's more that we can do, right? Part of the water positivity message is that we can get more out of what we have, and even with the conservation efforts that were discussed here, our conservation program is second to none. But to implement further conservation techniques, that does take resources, that does take funding, and those are things that we do plan to do. What Project Blue would do is advance those years and years ahead of where we are today.
Okay, we're going to move on to the additional questions about accountability because while some of you seem unconvinced on water positivity, that's fine. That's okay. We're here to keep working that problem with you. Believe me, the mayor and council would not go down a path if they didn't have a water sustainability element to it. So thank you. They're here challenging us just as much as you are. So we'll come to the NDA in a second. So some of you are asking, okay, what's the accountability on any of these things, whether it's net water positivity or if they don't get the reclaim line built, things of that nature. I'm going to ask Carrie to give an answer to that. I might augment it, but then also, what if somebody else bought the facility in the future? How would that work?
So I'm going to do the second question first, which is that the development agreement that we're entering into, as well as the zoning, it's called They Run with the Land. What that means is that any future owner, any of the commitments in the development agreement and any of the commitments in the zoning, which is the stuff we're working on right now, and a lot of this is captured in there, will apply to any future owners and operators of the project. In the development agreement, we worked very closely with Tucson Water, particularly on the kinds of things that are the repercussions for not complying. So as I mentioned before, the potable water line is a 2-year, it can only be used for 2 years. After that, no further development can occur, and there will be significant penalties as well. None of the rest of the project that's contemplated will be able to be developed. Is that what you wanted me to?
I think that covered it.
Yeah. Okay.
Did you talk about NDA?
The NDA, they're going to.
Okay.
You guys want to talk
NDA? Would you talk about NDA? So I'm seeking the Beal team to talk about the NDA and the value of the NDA to a developer.
I'm Logan Craig. I'm the Vice President of Development at Beal Infrastructure. Now, I would say that the vast majority of economic development projects, especially those on this scale across the country and in Pima County, use NDAs in the initial phases of project development. This is absolutely standard business practice. We're excited here to share. We're excited to be here now, sharing project information that is critical for the community and the electeds as we move on to the next phase of this project development.
So that was you're asking about why is an NDA involved, and there's economic development. It typically is preceded by an NDA, and so that's where we're at right now. Is the fact sharing that you've all been craving is happening literally right now with you. It's happening right now with you. So we've got a couple people that have asked to come to the mics and some people who've come to the mics. So I'm going to start alternating back and forth. I've asked Ava to come up. She's on her way up, and she asked to be recognized. So I'd like Ava to have first spot at that mic. And, sir, if we could go ahead to your question, and then we'll bounce back and forth. 1 second. It's not on. I'm not sure why. Got it.
Yes, I have a couple of questions. Does Beal operate other facilities, or is this going to be their only one?
They don't even have enough projects. We'd like Beal to answer that question. They're here to answer it.
We have a handful of projects under development throughout the United States. We do not have any operating assets as of yet. Beal Infrastructure is made up of industry veterans from Google, Microsoft, Meta, all major data center developers who have completed and are safely operating projects throughout the country and throughout the globe. Sir, I can't quite hear you over the din.
Beal is actually a subset of a larger company. Is that not correct?
Beal Infrastructure is wholly owned by Blue Owl Capital. They're our capital partner.
Do they have any risk liability for this project as the major company?
Yes.
I'd like to go back to a water question. Has the city agreed to, or has Beal asked for a fixed amount of water annually guaranteed, irrespective of the water supplies available?
So this is Tim. I'll answer that question. If there is a development agreement that's approved and we ultimately enter into a contract, we would be contracted to supply water to the facility. So
are you guaranteeing a fixed amount irrespective of what's available to the city?
So the question is, irrespective of what's available to the city, we have all of our customers share a similar risk on whether there's enough water supply. Now, is there enough water supply? The answer is yes. When is the last time that you had water cut off at your house? Right. So you do not have, you've not had that happen because of the. That's right. You've never had a data center. So in Tucson, hold on. Let's go there, and then I'm going to come over to Ava because you've had some time at the mic. I'm going to go to Ava. There are currently 17 golf courses on the reclaim system. Each of those golf courses uses as much water as the initial phase of these data centers. How many times have you had a water shortage because of those 17 golf courses? 0. So there is 60% of the supply for the reclaimed water system still available. Talking around what, sir? if we enter into a contract, they would receive water. So let's go to this mic, please. Next question coming from the microphone over here.
Thank you.
Please.
I know many of you know me and know that I grew up in the Superfund site. And you probably think I'm here to talk about the water because I know so much about the water, having been poisoned by it my entire life. And I know there's some wells that are out there right now that we cannot use because there's so much poison in the water in these wells. So, you know, you all know what's going on with the water and how it's hard for us to really feel comfortable and you know, really believe some of this stuff with the water because of how we have been impacted, not just in the Superfund side, but throughout the city when it comes to the waters. But to tell you the truth, one of the other things that I'm really here for are for the unions. Because one of the things that really worries me is that we don't have any guarantees on this contract. That we are going to be hiring local, and we are going to be hiring unions, not just local, but unions. That we need to remain strong union city that we now are. Because the unions is what makes this city stronger. And so I want to have you know, some type of guarantee that when we do this plant, if we do it, because I'm not for it, but if we do it, that we have guarantees for our brothers, you know, and sisters in the unions, the carpenters unions, the IBEW, the painters union. I just heard yesterday, I think it was, that it might be Amazon. And we all know how Amazon treats its employees and how they're anti-union. So we want job development, we want job growth, but we need to be careful. We need to be careful. We can't, you know, we can't really believe everything they're saying as far as the jobs are concerned. 100, 200 jobs at the end of the day. I want them to bring, I want that young man that's over there that does the job development stuff, I want him to bring a lot of jobs to Tucson. But I want these jobs to be jobs that are safe for us. They're not jobs that are just thrown at us without any kind of thought and process about what it could do to our communities. So bring the jobs, bring the job growth, but let's think about what this is going to do for our kids and our grandkids in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, and I want to address that. I know we've got a lot of other questions, but Beal Infrastructure is the developer of the project, and we are actively working with the union organizations, which is why there is the amount of union support that's here, and that is the goal. So we are actively working on that. There's one other thing that that was asked in that question that we want to address, which is the PFAS.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Kassler. I'm the Director of Water here at Beal Infrastructure. I have a background in water infrastructure supporting data center development, and I'm an environmental engineer that has specialized in recycled water. I would like to address the comment about PFAS contamination and then also a comment here that I have about additional contamination, and I'll read that out. First, regarding PFAS contamination, the woman who spoke very kindly pointed out there's a lot of wells that cannot actively use water because of the PFAS contamination. One of the proposed water positive projects is actually adding wellhead treatment, so those wells that were shut down that would cost a lot of money to come back online. They can be brought online, and so that the water can be treated to be drinkable. That is just one example of water positive. That's a great comment. It is proposed, not guaranteed, which project it is. However, the guarantee and the commitment to be water positive is written out in our development agreement. We have outlined that at the bare minimum, we pay the rate that Tim spoke earlier, and that enables Tucson Water to go out and pursue these projects themselves. Or we can fund our own projects like the PFAS treatment and like other water conserving or replenishing projects to replenish 100% drop for drop the water that we are using on this data center campus. I can't comment on that, but I will say that data centers in the past have made mistakes. They have. We are working very closely with Tucson Water to model the effects of this water usage. I do want to call out, there is a question here. It says, once Project Blue starts recharging water, how will they ensure the water is free from harmful toxic chemicals, odors, heavy metals like mercury, cadmium, beryllium, and lead? There's actually two questions in there. When we are recharging water, that is recharging reclaimed water into the aquifer recharge and recovery, there is a permit process through the Arizona Department of Environment and Quality. That is an aquifer protection permit. Nothing can be put into the aquifer without complying with this permit, and we are already working very closely to comply with this permit. That is reclaimed water that's already complying with this, that is produced by the Agua Nueva Water Reclamation Facility. Second, Project Blue is not adding any toxic chemicals, odors, heavy metals to the water. We are treating the water. We are treating the water so that we can use it efficiently in our system and reduce our water usage. And we are discharging it not to the aquifer, but to Pima County. We are in active discussions with Pima County right now to ensure that anything we put down the drain that goes to the sewer, just like any other industrial user, will be acceptable, and we are actively working with that. We will have an industrial discharge permit, which is common for any other industrial user, and there will be monitoring and compliance and enforcement associated with that permit.
So,
I can explain. I heard some follow-ups. What do you treat the water with? What's in the discharge? Primarily, we are removing hardness, calcium, magnesium, the things that scale up on your shower. That's what we're taking out of the water through membrane treatment. That's a great question. We are not adding any. Okay. We're going to go to the people in line, but we are removing hardness, and we are providing a non-oxidizing biocide to prevent biological growth. It is common for water treatment.
So we're going to keep moving here. We're going to go to this microphone next. One related question from the cards was, there was some recent reporting by Tony Davis, and he stated in his article that there would be reduced flow to the Sweetwater wetlands, which is one of the cards here. Not true. The Sweetwater recharge facility. When we point at each other, we get that. So hold on. Thank you. The Sweetwater wetlands are not affected by any changes in the reclaimed water system. The Sweetwater recharge facilities, which are located next door, are where we infiltrate water to the groundwater, very similar to what would be happening at this facility and what happens at Sharp. But the Sweetwater wetlands will not be impacted at all. We treasure it just as much as you do. Let's go here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for taking my question. So I just wanted to follow the accountability piece. You know, I'm hearing a lot of promises from Project Blue for benefits to Tucson, but I'm wondering what kind of recourse we'll have if those things don't come true. I mean, I assume all of you will be long gone, and we'll just be left with whatever effects you leave behind. I just want to say, back to the questioner before me, you don't even have any prior projects that we can look at and say, oh, look at their great environmental record. So we're just trusting you, people who have no stake in our community, who will be long gone by the time our money is done.
Excellent question. So I think this is a great point. These are not promises, these are requirements. We are negotiating a development agreement with the city of Tucson that has requirements that we meet these. So these aren't commitments, these aren't promises, these are requirements for us to operate. And I might turn it over to Tim to get.
None of those requirements, promises, you didn't provide any details. It's all so vague. So how are we supposed to know exactly how much water you're giving to Project Blue? You wouldn't answer that question from my person, the person before me.
So if you didn't catch the answer to that, and I'm going to get my steps in because I think this might be the only mic I'm hearing that's getting picked up on the live stream. So I'm going to be going back. Oh, that one's good? Okay, I'm going to come this side. So 440 acre-feet per year for the initial phase. If both phases are built out to their full build-out, it's 1,910 acre-feet per year. That's the answer to that question. An average golf course uses
Do you know what that is
hold on.
like in comparison to how much water like a household uses or a neighborhood uses?
All right. So an average house. Okay, and then we've got a lot of people in line, so I'm not trying to rush you. I'm going to answer your question. Let's go one question per person. Somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000 gallons per month is what a average Tucson Water customer uses.
And what's that in acre-feet?
It's not very much.
Okay,
So
what is that in comparison to, what did you say, 1,900 or?
So 1,900 acre-feet per year at build-out.
Thank you, sir.
Actually, it is the same amount of water. I don't know how many people connect with millions of gallons, but it's 4 golf courses at build-out. That's the water use. We're going to go over here, and oh, your mic's good. Okay.
Good evening. Tucson recently voted down Proposition 414, which would have increased the sales tax in the city. Will the tax revenue from the Project Blue go towards paying for these same services that Prop 414 was intended to fund, such as public safety, social programs, and the homeless, but without tax increases for Tucsoners?
So, thank you. That the tax proceeds that come to the city would go to the general fund, which is where those exact services you were talking about are funded. Public safety, police, fire, our community safety, our parks and recreation. All of those are what are funded by our general fund, and these tax revenues go to that. The county also receives a tax benefit, as does the state. But specifically to that question, it goes to fund those things that Prop 414 would have funded. Thank you.
Thank you. So just to clarify about river water, if you live near Irvington, you'll see a lot of dead willow trees because there was a dramatic increase in how much effluent was needed by golf courses because it's really hot in the summer. So there's a whole bunch of trees there that have died because that has been reduced. That's not my question. My question is to get to water positivity, as I understand it, the venture capitalists behind this are willing to purchase paper water. And that paper water is what they're going to be able to use to say they're water positive, not actual water, because we all know you can't make new water, especially in the desert.
Thanks. So the 5 categories of, as I'm walking my way over here, and then I'll come to you, sir. I know you've been patient. The 5 categories of water positivity, and if you're not a water geek, paper water and wet water can be confusing. So I'm a water geek. If you give me a second, I will explain it. Wet water is what you're used to seeing. It comes out of your tap. You can feel it, touch it, use it, and that's what you relate to as water. In order to have wet water in Arizona, you also has to have the rights to that water. You can't just go and take water. You have to have the legal right to it. And we call those legal rights to water paper water. In Tucson, you need to have both. You have to have, you can drink wet water, and you can only drink it if you have the paper behind it. And so all of these water positivity, thank you, on the screen are wet water. Conservation is wet water flowing to a tap right now. That would not be flowing to that tap if we had conservation installed. System efficiency is we pump more water out of the ground than we deliver to customers because we have leaks and inefficiency in our system. If we can invest in shoring that up, we save wet and paper water. Supply augmentation would be wet and paper water. So all of these are, if you're interested in the wet and paper water side of it, all of these are wet and paper. Yes, sir.
Thank you for letting me speak. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to all the organizers of this hearing for providing us with the ability to have a civil discourse in this very, very beautiful facility here in the air conditioning. So thank you for that. My name's Jorge. I'm with the Western States Council of Carpenters, Local 1912. I am a Tucson resident, and it's kind of a two-part question. If Project Blue is not approved, what other currently planned projects in Tucson would bring as many construction jobs and economic impact to Tucson? And the second part is, can you tell me more about the 3,000 construction jobs that will be created? People are saying they're temporary. Are they?
Thank you for sharing the microphone. What's our pipeline look like for similar jobs?
Again, Mike Chakowski, City of Tucson Project Manager for Economic Development. We currently do not have any projects in our pipeline of this scale. We did, in conjunction with Pima County several years ago, approve a development agreement for American Battery Factory that is waiting to break ground. That would bring 1,000 new jobs to the community, along with construction jobs for that. That's about $1.2 billion project. Other projects in this scale, we do not have any in our pipeline.
And I'm going to come to this gentleman, and then I'll come right over to you.
Thank you. So thank you. And there's been a lot of work put into this presentation and analysis, which is very positive. I guess one of the things that I'm concerned about, my background is in the National Environmental Policy Act and looking at different choices for how to solve the problems that folks might have in various areas and achieve their goals. And what I see in the planning processes that I've observed since coming back home to Tucson from Washington, D.C., is that we tend to put water stewardship off in one side and development on the other side. And what I'm listening to, and maybe quite falsely here, is we have a very clear, one-off, specific contribution to making things better, which is not clear what it is that will be made better, at least from my listening, which is I'm supposing is limited. But what I really am concerned about for the city and the county area is that we're not looking at, well, how much water do we have? How do we manage what we've got? And how do we provide the stewardship for it? And in part, that's the answer to that is conserving and restoring the water that we've used. But it seems like we're putting our eggs in one basket here. And I don't think we're being realistic. We hardly ever see in any proposed project how that impacts the sustainable water supplies of our groundwater. Zip. I'd never see that. So while I'm really supportive of looking at different ideas here, I'm really going to use this opportunity for me to press that the first thing the city of Tucson needs to do in analyzing its alternatives is to figure out how much water do we have and how do we keep making that sustainable instead of projecting some magic solution out in the future.
Thank you, sir. very well stated, and I will also mention that a few cards came in with very similar sentiment around, the value of water, when the well runs dry. I think that is extremely how Tucsonans feel about water and how the city feels about water. And I will continue to provide facts about that to the best of my ability to be able to give you the information that you're seeking in order to adjudicate that. Having said that, I'm going to come on over here, and yes, we're down to one mic.
Thank you. I was going to start out with saying corporate promises made aren't necessarily promises kept, but we've now heard that we're supposed to use the word requirement. It's the same thing once this gets up and running. If you do not do what you're supposed to do, there's no recourse once you're up and running. Now, the draft agreement states that you promise to use potable drinkable water for only 2 years prior to switching to reclaimed. 2 years from now, oops, we need to keep using portable a little while longer. The only recourse is making you pay more money. The draft agreement states water allocation caps for reclaimed water, but breaking those caps won't result in the city cutting off Project Blue's water. Instead, there will just be extra charges. Charging more does not give water back. Money is not water. Money and water are not fungible items. Also, what about unintended consequences? I'm going to bring up the Georgia situation. It had nothing to do with using water. It had to do with destroying the underground water with sediment. I feel that if we don't have any guarantees once this is up and running, that's it. It's over with. Promises, requirements notwithstanding.
Thank you for that. So I have to fill the walking space with me answering questions as well. So bear with me. The guarantees, the development agreement does establish those guarantees. And I will say that something that's come up tonight, and it's actually come up in a few places even leading up to tonight. A lot of folks understand the water allocation, and they understand, okay, if they go over it, they have to pay more, and then they have to pay more. And then the question is there this ultimate limit? And we've been hearing that quite a bit, because you are correct. Right now, the development agreement doesn't say, and beyond that, you're just done. So that is some feedback that the city will be taking into this conversation moving forward about how do we address that concern. As far as the 2 years on the reclaimed water, how do we address that as far as an accountability piece? This is 2 years of potable water use before the reclaimed water system comes online. We will make sure that we're addressing the accountability on that piece as well. Now, I do not have 100% answers tonight, because why not? Why not? Because we're getting your input and questions to answer. That's why not. So I'm going to go to our next speaker here, but if you want to hold me accountable for having answers before I've even posed the question to the mayor and council, that's fine. But I have not. I'm not playing you, sir. How can I have 100% of the answers? If I came in with 100% of the answers, you'd be like, it's already baked, it's cooked, it's approved. None of that's true. All right. Are you ready?
Can everyone hear me? All right, I'll begin. My name is Jordan Ochoa. I am actually a native Tucsonan. I know it's rare. Yeah. I'll go ahead.
Hold on, please. We have somebody that wants to speak, and give her the courtesy.
Thank you. I'd like to repeat my name. My name is Jordan Ochoa. I'm a native Tucsonan, wife and mother. And I'm also very concerned. And the reason that I'm concerned is because I went to understand what Project Blue is about before I made my decisions.
And I educated myself down at the City of Tucson and Pima County on Monday and was hit with, I can't tell you that I am under an NDA. It raised serious questions for me about transparency and accountability. Because only recently, according to Arizona's Lumeria's public records reporting, Mayor Romero, you weren't aware Amazon Web Service was even a part of this. Another thing that concerned me is Humphreys Peak Holdings LLC. That is also associated with this, and they are registered out in Delaware, and Delaware is one of the few states that does not require disclosure of ownership, so I have no idea who's behind all this. Let me continue. Now, my biggest concern is this: since we don't have transparency and accountability, it may directly violate the Arizona's Constitution, Article 9, Section 7. This has a private company cannot be funded by taxpayers without full transparency and fair compensation. So this is what fairness looks like, at least to me. Guaranteed public return on investment, ROI. You guys are businesses, you talk about ROI all the time. Job creation metrics that are enforceable with benchmarks as well. Access to water and utilities not strained or privatized. Ratepayer protections from infrastructure cost burdens as well. And especially local oversight with reporting requirements. So in conclusion, these appear to be the confusion about who is leading the project, uncertainty about who is benefiting from this project, and the concern how our public resources are being used, especially water and electricity. Thank you.
May I have that? Okay, thanks. All right. There's no public money going into the project, right? So thank you for that. There is no public money going into the private company or the project. Are you ready?
Hello, my name's Russell Lowe's, and I've lived in Tucson since '95 now. Grew up in the Phoenix area, opted for the better place to live. Could you change it to the energy slide, what was called that earlier today? There it is. Okay, I'm going to walk up here because I want to point out a couple things. So, where in there is energy? Could anybody tell me where energy is? Because 350 megawatts, for example, is not energy. That's power. Okay, and is there any electrical engineer in the house that wants to confirm that? Right there? Okay. So there isn't a single energy thing on this entire energy slide. Okay? 250 to 350 megawatts is just power. It would be like if you got a generator at home and it was, say, a 6 kilowatt capacity generator. That times 1 hour would be energy. You'd have 6 kilowatt hours. You would have 350 megawatt hours if you ran this at full capacity for the initial phase. There is no information on energy here. This has been a fact-light session, in my opinion. I really can't believe that you would call this an energy slide when it has no energy on it.
Ryan, I'm going to ask you to come up because I've given you a couple of cards. Since we've moved into the power/energy space, I'm going to ask Ryan Anderson to come up and address a couple of the cards that came in earlier, and then I'm going to work my way back over here. I have Steve ready to go, and then I'm going to come to you. So, Ryan, go ahead. I don't have an answer on why we showed power versus energy. I'm mostly the water guy.
Hi, Mr. Lowe. My name is Ryan Anderson. I work at Tucson Electric Power and manage the business development department. I've worked for TEP for about 8 years. My department supports our large commercial industrial customers and other key community members like our school districts, the hospitals. We also support economic development. So we've been working with the Project Blue team for about 1.5 years on 2 years now, as they've asked about coming and joining our community. So well, I want to answer the questions that are in front of me in the card. But Mr. Lowe, was that your name, Mr. Lowe? Mr. Lowe's? I appreciate your question. You know, for a lot of developers and development, when we look at them moving into a service area, we do talk about capacity. And we talk about what kind of megawatts, what kind of power they're going to require. And then what they actually consume, the energy they consume over time, that really is measured through their meters. So a lot of times we have to wait for them to show up. I think those projections, we can work on providing those projections. But most of the time when we're dealing with new businesses that are moving into town, they focus on the power, the capacity question. So that's how we tend to. Okay. Well, we can follow up on that one for you, sir. But let me look at a couple other questions that we have. So one says max energy use is 6 terawatts a year. TEP has already done a 14% increase. How will the new energy be paid for without raising rates? It's a good question, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate a lot of the passion in the room. In terms of the 14% rate increase, that's a look back. Again, I've worked at TEP for 8 years, and trying to understand utility rates, it's a process. So in 2024, you look at all the costs that you incurred to support serving the community, and then you put that into the rate in case you provide that data to the commission, and that elected body takes a look at that, and then they determine what fair rate return on that is, and that's how they determine rates. Looking forward, Project Blue will be included in future rate cases. So essentially, when you have a large user, they help defer some of the costs that you have serving a community. So when you get more revenue into our electric utility service area, it helps defray the costs that each person has to pay. So the more volume you become, it is a rather complicated. It's rather complicated, but that's essentially how it works. Yeah. Let's see here. This project will increase the demand for electricity in Tucson. Can you estimate by what percentage this will increase my electricity bill? Well, as I just mentioned, one of the good things about having a large user is that, let's say, it costs $100 to purchase a piece of equipment. You have 100 customers. Each one would pay $1. If you have 101, you pay a little less than that. So ultimately, when you have more revenue coming into the system, it reduces the upward pressure on rates. That's how the rates work.
Thank you, Ryan. So I'm going to go to Steve, and I'm going to come right over to you.
Hi, my name's Stephen Washburn, and I am one of you. I am a volunteer, and first of all, I have to thank all of you for being here, because clearly you care about water, and you're spending one day and possibly a little more if you've studied. I've spent the last 7 years as a volunteer at Citizens Water Advisory Committee, the last 2 years as chair of the Finance Subcommittee. And the message that I want to tell everyone in the room, that if you knew what I knew after all that invested time, you would support this. You really would.
Thanks, Steve. All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tony Gazinski. I live in Rita Ranch, and first I want to thank Nikki Lee and Ward 4 for putting this together. I also want to thank the mayor and city council for being good water stewards so far. I'm hoping that you will continue that into the future. A lot of my questions have already been answered, but I do have a follow-up question on the energy. I think someone said that there was going to be a letter of credit given to TEP to help offset some of the costs of building out the new electricity infrastructure. Is that true? And if it is true, who is paying that bill?
Thank you again for another great question. One of the things we look at in Tucson is that people do ask informed questions. There's already 144 data centers in the Phoenix area, and many of them just happened because people weren't as invested in stewarding their community. So I appreciate it. Your question was for the initial phase, and let me know if I get this right. For the initial phase, you see up there the 250 to 350 megawatts, we currently have the resources available. And so like any other major commercial and industrial customer, they can take service and we recover the cost that serves them through those rates. Project Blue is being required to take an additional step, which is they're committing to a larger term, they're providing a letter of credit, and they're committing to termination fees if they were to leave. So we're actually covering more than we would with normal customers. Any of us here that are TP customers could terminate our service right now today and walk away at will. Project Blue is committing to do more than that. So it's actually protecting existing customers even more. For future phases, that's aspirational. So we're looking just at this initial launch phase. For additional phases, that will be part of a discussion in the future.
Thanks, Ryan. So, and that question's actually come up in some email traffic that's been going around with folks asking questions about how do you de-risk the project, and that's an example on the power side. So I'm glad that came up tonight, Ryan, with your answer. And come to you.
Hi. First of all, I wanted to say you guys are doing a great job of handling all of the yelling, and I feel like this is a hard position. That being said, you've made it, so this is more of a statement. You had softballed us twice before admitting that the city/county has no enforcement plan, something that should have been considered when you were maximizing water usage for this facility. And when we ask for enforcement plans, we're wanting something like an action, a promise, a statement, a suggestion. So I'm going to ask, what will does the city have any idea what it's going to do if Project Blue overdraws on their water promise?
Thank you. Great question. So what's in the draft development agreement, which is a draft, and we will continue to work on it as a team, it has an allocation of water, and if they use, and they pay for that water, and they replace that water. Then if they use more than that allocation of water, they pay a higher rate. I think it goes to 150% rate. And they replace the water. And then it goes to 200%. And they replace the water. I'll come back to where they replace it again. So there's a financial incentive. And then if over a 10-year period, because we know water use is going to fluctuate year to year, so that these are the average uses. Then they'd have the possibility of liquidated damages, which means they would have to replace the water and pay fines above the increased cost. The fine is $500,000 of a fine. So that is what's currently in the draft agreement. That's what's currently in the draft agreement. The thing that has come, oh, you want to go, Christina? Okay.
Hi again. So Tim's right in what's in the draft agreement. It is a $500,000 fine for the first 10 years if your average is over. If you keep exceeding it, if your average continues to be over, it is an annual fine in addition to all of your excess penalties. There is also consistently a requirement to prove water positivity via the rate that will have to go to real projects that bring water into the Tucson water portfolio. They have to be assured by ADWR. We have a lot of water from all of the projects that we have just gone over. However, if there is any point where the project is no longer water positive, and if we cannot meet the commitments, I would expect that this project would be treated like any other customer who does not pay their rates. And if we cannot commit to a water positive continually, then I would expect that like any other Tucson Water customer who's not paying their rates, there would be a shutoff.
Thanks, Christina. So I'm going to go to our next question, but I'm hearing some feedback on whether that's sufficient. Fine. I'm also hearing whether we have the absolute cap, and that's currently not in the draft development agreement, and we will have that conversation. So let's go to you. Sorry.
Thank you. Could I request you to put on the graph that has a little picture of a lovely little picture of a tree, and you talk about tree planting? There's one, not that. That one. Yeah, okay. So I have been a resident of Tucson now for about, I think, 36 years and counting. And my wife and I have built our house so that we can age here, and I do not want to die of water starvation. My question is very specific. My question is very specific in terms of the penalties that you just talked about. There are a whole lot of things here that look like promises and that you actually stated are requirements. The penalties that I've seen in the contract, which I've read, which is on the website just now, is that what you're calling the development agreement? The development agreement has got very specific penalties for the water utilization, but absolutely nothing about these so-called requirements. So if these requirements are not met, what on earth are you going to do?
So I'll start a little bit, and then I'm going to come to our environmental folks here who've been patiently here with a lot of questions. So not every requirement or accountability piece is in the development agreement, because there are some of these things that show up in the building plans and other things. So for example, rainwater harvesting, we have a commercial rainwater harvesting ordinance that requires certain things. That wouldn't appear in the development agreement. It would appear in a later stage, but before they're actually approved to be able to do a project. So you are absolutely correct that as the development agreement goes, many of these things do not have an enforcement mechanism. That doesn't mean there won't be one, because there are a number of other stages ahead to implement those accountabilities. With that, I would like to invite Scott from Pima County Environmental Quality up, because and then I'm going to run over to you. We have a few of the cards. We've still got an overwhelming number, but I wanted to give you a shot at some of them.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Scott Tobias with Pima Department of Environmental Quality. I have a question here related to what are the air quality impacts of an electric generation that can run an additional 1.3 gigawatts. The department has questions out to TEP and to Project Blue in relationship to their energy needs, what they're planning on doing in relationship to our department, our role as the air quality permitting process. We're looking for answers in relationship to that. Where it's applicable, obviously we'd be permitting on the Project Blue side on their backup generators. We have a really robust public participation process that I would love to see this many people, passionate people, attend, because quite frankly we rarely have this quite of attendance and passion for the projects that we permit. And so getting to this question, we would be going through a permitting process with Project Blue as it relates to their backup generation, and any additional generation that would be needed on TEP within Pima County would be under our purview to permit as well. So,
thanks, Scott. I'm going to keep on moving over here. This is pretty on brand for me. I usually end up doing the Phil Donahue thing at some point during a meeting. Here you go, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Good evening. My name is Fernando Lebron. I'm proud to represent SMART Local 359. We're excited about what Project Blue means for Tucson, because this isn't just another development. It's a game changer for working families. Project Blue will create thousands of union construction jobs, putting local tradespeople to work, building something that will power Arizona's future. It also brings 180 permanent full-time positions and over $250 million in tax revenues that will help fund public schools, infrastructure, and essential services. The developers are stepping up, investing in water, sustainably clean energy, and covering key infrastructure costs without putting the burden on taxpayers. This is a smart, forward-looking project that benefits our members and our entire community. Smart Local 359 proudly supports Project Blue because it delivers jobs, opportunity, and progress for Tucson.
We still have a lot of folks in line, and I'm just giving you the about 10-minute warning. So we're going to get through as many folks as we can, and the less shouting, the more people we can get to. And a reminder that there will be another of these events next week, and we'll get you the details of that at the closing. And also, for those of you that either wrote it on the card or the QR scan or voluntarily provided your email, there will be a listserv that's generated. We'll be doing communication that way as well. Voluntary, join as you can. Going to you.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Mark with Boilermakers Local 627. And there was a question earlier that I was asked, and it was whether there are any other infrastructure projects of this size in Tucson. And so before I ask my question, I wanted all of our union members here to stand up, please. So what most people don't know is that everyone here is from Tucson. Everyone's here from Tucson, but our union members are also from Tucson. They woke up at 1 and 2 in the morning, got ready for work, drove to Phoenix, drove to Dayton, drove to Casa Grande, because there are no projects of this size in Tucson. What this project represents is 10 years of feeding our families, 10 years of putting a roof over our head, and 10 years of a good local union job for our construction workers. So my question is, what is Beal Infrastructure's commitment to using a local construction workforce and a local day-to-day workforce?
Thank you for that question. It is on. Okay, sorry. Thank you for that question, and thank you all for coming out tonight. I don't think that we got the opportunity really to thank you for being here and for being involved in this process. In terms of the question as it relates to union workers, we are already in, this was answered earlier by Carrie, we are already in discussion with the union folk. And we will be inviting all the unions to bid on this project in order to maximize the amount of locals that work on this project. It is to the benefits of the project to hire locally. There are thousands of construction jobs that are being created, and we want them to be filled by the people of Tucson in order to work with the community. We are here answering your questions and being involved and engaging with you all because we do care about the community. We care about doing this responsibly and making sure that ultimately this benefits you all. Beal Infrastructure is the developer and will be the long-term owner and landlord of this project. We have a vested interest of making sure that the community feels that we have done our best effort to work with you all and that we are welcome here in the community. Thank you.
Thank you for that. You ready, sir? Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. All right. We're on to our next.
Good evening. My name is Albert Villalpando. I'm proud to represent Smart Local 359. We strongly support Project Blue because it delivers exactly what Tucson needs: high-quality jobs, long-term economic growth, and a smart infrastructure and investment. Project Blue will create thousands of union construction jobs, giving our skilled members the opportunity to build a state-of-the-art data center right here in southern Arizona. It will also bring over 180 full-time permanent jobs and generate more than $250 million in tax revenue. Money and supports our schools, roads, and first responders. Even better, the developers are paying for key infrastructure improvements and using reclaimed water, showing that their commitment is sustainably. Project Blue is a win for the working families here in Tucson. Smart Local 359 is here and ready to build. Thank you.
Appreciate it. As I walk and add to this, the pipeline will be operated by City of Tucson workers of AFSCME. The folks who will do the billing are City of Tucson workers with CWA, and the beneficiaries of the taxes, TFFA, TPOA. The folks at the City of Tucson are also significantly represented by proud union members.
Good evening. Mr. Tom Muir and all the city representatives who spoke 100% as proponents of the project, defending it, and 100% for it. So if that's their position and the decision, if it was made, why do we have this forum? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So the mayor and council have not made any decisions related to this project. They have not had an item before them to even consider it. They received information, similar timeline as you, when that development agreement went out. We actually shared it with the public the exact same moment we shared it with the mayor and council, which is unheard of. We normally would not have done anything like that. And it is because we were trying to get as much information out as soon as we could. So mayor and council have not acted, have not decided. They are listening to every word you say. Come in.
Hi, everyone. My name is Reed Sperling. First, I'd like to address the $250 million in taxes. The city would only get about $10 million of that per year. $10 million is a lot of money. We could use that for a lot of good things, but it's $10 million. It's less than 0.5% of the city budget. We already spend more than that on climate resiliency. We have the opportunity before us, by rejecting Project Blue, to, in effect, spend $10 million a year, a tiny amount of money in the grand scheme of things, to cut our city's energy usage in half. That is an amazing opportunity, and we should take it. My question is, what will the capacity and expected use, power-wise, of the on-site backup generators be? Where on-site will those backup generators be? And how will their exhaust be filtered, if at all?
Thank you for that. And I just want to add to what you said. The $10 million a year of tax revenues to the city is only on the initial phase. At full build-out, it is significantly more. So when we compare water use and energy use to revenue, it's always good to be able to compare. Initial phase is one set of facts, and then build-out's another. But just to add to that, backup generators. We got them.
So there will be backup generation on this site. This is for emergency use only. I know there is a lot of bluster in the media of projects elsewhere in this country that are using on-site generation for primary use. That is not this project. This project's backup generators are purely for grid emergencies. Sorry. There will be testing and maintenance of these generators. Typically, it's monthly. Now, that testing and use will all be governed by a permit with PDEQ, and we will stay well under any emissions regulations regarding local requirements there. As to how many, we're still in the planning phases there. We don't know how many. It'll be largely reflective of those nameplate capacities, slightly lower, but I can't tell you how many right now.
Okay, we've got time for 2 more questions, and then we have the event next week. The event next week, 5:30 to 7:30, Thursday night. Location to be determined, somewhere in Midtown. We had a location picked out, but based on tonight's attendance and interest, we want to make sure we have a big enough area to accommodate everybody that wants their voice heard. So we hope, we're doing a walkthrough tomorrow to hopefully nail down the spot. So we'll get information out as soon as we can about the location, but next Thursday night, 5 to 7, somewhere in Midtown.
Hello, my name is Daniel Spencer, and I was wondering why you. And wait, am I quiet? You're doing great. I was wondering why are you so adamant on supporting this project? What is in it for you all, and why is a major project like this not for vote like it should be? Like Goodyear residents denied a similar large-scale project. Why can't we do the same?
Thank you. So this project will go for a vote, absolutely. There will be a vote, actually multiple votes of the mayor and council, because they haven't even started the process of deciding whether to consider it, right? So on the 19th of August is when they would first decide whether to consider the project. So that's how far ahead of this conversation we are with the facts we're sharing and the information sessions we're having are before the council's even decided to take it out. All right, are you ready? Yeah, this is the only one.
Awesome. You guys can hear me? Can you hear me? I'm awesome. Well, first, thank you guys for coming out and answering the questions. I took a lot of notes. I'm going to be able to do some research and stuff when I get home. I have been awake for 24 hours. I had to do an all-nighter, so bear with me. When I've asked this question, I want to make sure it's framed correctly so that, because I'm genuinely curious what your answer is. So I've worked in tech pretty much my entire adult life, and I remember there was like 3 months back in like 2018 where if you put the word blockchain in your marketing pitch, you were like 200% more likely to get funded. But then now I bet most people know that word associated with like how NFTs are all worthless, and also people just use it to do financial crimes. So my point being that you never really know, especially with tech, like the part of the story you're in while you're in it. And I know that it's not emergency alert. Are we all going to die? Okay. All right. Turquoise is apparently fine.
It's a turquoise alert, so no emergency that we need to address or disband. I'm going to go right back to you.
Thanks. Sorry. I'll try to hurry it up. So I know that it's not all of what you were talking about there. Hey, I do web app development. I appreciate QR codes, but I know a huge part of what's driving the demand for these kind of projects right now is related to generative AI and LLMs and the like. And I'm not saying I can predict the future better than anyone else, but I have reasons to believe that the shelf life of this stuff is not what it's being kind of promised. And so my question is, you know, I know you probably disagree with just the premise of that, but say for the sake of argument, you know, what if the current hype-driven demand spike kind of just drops off faster than this facility can get built? And what if the future it was created for is not the actual future that it'll end up existing in 10 years? So do you have a plan for that timeline in which we, as the city, as the community of Tucson, will not regret how much agency over our most valuable resources we would have given up at that point? Because I'm just saying I would predict that water is probably going to be more steady of a demand curve over the next 10 years than ChatGPT API requests. So I'm just curious to know like what the alternate plan is for.
Thank you for that. And as we address that as best we can, because that's a lot of future proofing we got there. This will be our last question because we are past 7, and I signaled that early. So we're going to come to you for our last question. But do you want to take a shot at that?
Yeah. So just to make sure that I understand the question correctly, If the question is in terms of future proofing and trying to predict what's going to happen in the future, right now what we are presenting is that initial phase, which is why the numbers that we keep on referring to, whether it's the $3.6 billion investment, the 180 jobs, the 3,000 construction jobs, those are all only for the first initial phase, which is the one that we're planning to build right now. No. If the building is built and it is operational, these are also long-term commitments that are being made in order to operate them over time. These are significant investments which you would not make if you're simply operating them for 2 years.
So to carry on with your question, I'm going to add to that initial phase is about 900,000 square feet of industrial space. Right now, elsewhere in Tucson, we're building about 1 million square feet of spec industrial space. What does spec mean? We don't have a customer for it yet. So if worst came to worst and the data center were to move out in year 11, we have a lot of opportunity to use that space that would have been built and useful. So it's future-proof, not just within the tech sector. There's actually a lot of usefulness to that type of facility here in Tucson for other uses. All right, last call.
Hi, everyone. My name is Keepana, and I have a question that's a little different from what we've heard so far. So I know we've heard a lot of important questions about water and energy use, about transparency around this project, about the need for good union jobs to support working families. I think these are all important concerns that people have raised, and I really appreciate everyone for raising those questions and concerns. But I want to take a step back also to something that came up at the beginning of the presentation, which was around, what is a data center? How do we use data centers in our lives? And there are many everyday uses for data centers. But now that we know the company that's behind this project, that the developer is acting on behalf of, which is Amazon Web Services, I also want to draw attention to the fact that in addition to being an anti-union mega corporation, Amazon Web Services works with a number of tech companies, including Palantir, which is contracting with the federal government, specifically with DHS and ICE, to surveil and police immigrants. They're fueling the administration's ramping up of the detention and deportation regime that is impacting our community members here in Tucson. Many of the families and people who are in this room today, I'm sure. And so what I want to ask is, what is this data center going to be used for? How will this benefit community members in Tucson? What guardrails are in place? How do we know that this data center isn't being used to support companies that are actively targeting members of our community?
And again, this will be our last answer for tonight.
So this is, there is a huge demand for traditional cloud infrastructure. It's something that we use every single day. Every single person in this room used in their personal lives. Our modern economy runs on it. It's absolutely integral to our modern economy and our daily lives. It's what's driving. It's really the backbone of the internet. This is absolutely critical cloud infrastructure. So this is, I know there's a lot of bluster these days about these large standalone deep learning AI facilities, and this is not that. This is traditional cloud infrastructure that supports I'm sorry, I can't, can you? No, this will be public cloud infrastructure.
So that That is the answer. The answer you're seeking is who, and the answer to that is this will be public cloud infrastructure. That is the answer we have. So with that, we are past our 7 o'clock hour. We have thank you very much to Micah Mountain High School for letting us use their facility. Thank you very much to everybody that turned out tonight. And stay tuned. We've got a pile of questions still to answer. Drive home safe, or transit home safe, or however you're going to get home safe.